Hello and welcome to Big Friendly Grub. I hope you and yes, even you are well today. Now, if you've been watching my channel on the reg, you'll know I never say things like on the reg. I don't know why I said that. But if you've been watching the last couple of weeks, you'll know that the last couple of videos have been vegan orientated. The one last week was a vegan taste test, and the one before that, that was a vegan carrot cake, and that was very, very good. But this week, I'm sorry vegans, I'm afraid you're going to have to avert your eyes, look away, because this week we are doing pulled pork. Now this was kind of a spontaneous idea for me because I've made pulled pork loads and loads of times before, but it's not usually something I make too often. I don't know why, because it's rather easy, but I really wanted to make this week because in my cupboard was, I don't know if you can see this, this is the Pig Easy, I see what they did there, American barbecue style pulled pork gourmet sauce mix. My mum got this for me, which was lovely for her.
It was at this moment that he knew. He f***ed up.
Stuff like this I'm always a bit wary about because usually it has stuff in it that I don't see the need for. I mean, if I'm looking at this one, if you have a look here, I don't know if you can see this, it says, it's got colours in it, like plain caramel. And it's also got xanthan gum in it. What's xanthan gum? Why does it need to be in this rub? I don't know. So I thought I will make pulled pork, but I won't use this. I will save that for another day, and I will show you how to make pulled pork from scratch and make your own pulled pork rub using all sorts of lovely herbs and spices, which you might be able to see over here. And if you can't, there's a lot of lovely herbs and spices and things that I am gesticulating to over here. But not only that, because usually to make pulled pork, I use one of these. Hang on. I usually use one of these things. This is my slow cooker or crock pot, as it says on the front. And usually I use this for my slow cooking, especially pulled pork and things like that. It allows you to cook the pulled pork or beef brisket or whatever you're going to be making. Just chuck it on, leave it and walk away basically. But I'm not using that today because I don't want to assume that all of you guys have one of these. So I'm going to put this down. Be back in a sec. Right, so yes, I'm not going to assume you have a slow cooker, so I'm just going to show you how to make it in a big old pot like this on your stove. I'm hoping that most people do have a stovetop and a big old pot. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to show you how to make pulled pork using the simplest stuff possible, because that's what this is all about. I want to show you that anyone can do this and you don't have to have like fancy things. I've watched other like pulled pork videos online and I've seen someone use a sous vide. Who has a sous vide in their house? Very few people, I would imagine. So I'm going to show you how to do this with stuff you should have hopefully in your home. So enough of my pig-headedness. Get it? Because we're making pork. Let's get started. Yay! Right, before we even do anything with our pork, we're going to have to make our rub. And you can see I've got all kinds of spices here in order to make our rub. Now, I've picked out a selection that I like to use quite regularly, but the great thing about a rub is it can be quite forgiving and you can make it pretty much using whatever you really want as long as you've got like the flavour combinations right. See, I've got here like some chili powder and also some cayenne pepper, which will give it a bit of heat, but you don't have to include that if you don't want a hot and spicy rub. That is fine, you can leave those out. But important ones that I think to use are smoked paprika, onion and garlic granules, and ground cumin especially. But you also need some brown sugar. Light brown or dark brown, doesn't matter too much. I like to use the dark brown. I've got some dark brown sugar here as well. That gives it a bit of sweetness to the pulled pork, which is really what you need. So always make sure you have some light or dark brown sugar lying around to use in your rub. I won't talk about these too much more. I'm going to move these to one side. And we can get going with making our rub. So I'm going to be mainly using two measures, a tablespoon and a teaspoon. So I'm going to start off with 2 tablespoons of smoked paprika because this is going to be our core flavour. So it's got to give it that lovely smokiness that you would associate with pulled pork. Because usually pulled pork is done in like a smoker or something like that over in the US, but because most of us in the UK don't have smokers because the weather's crap over here all the time, we don't do that as often. But small pork smoked pork, smoked paprika allows us to give us that lovely pulled pork flavour. I'm going to add in a tablespoon of ground cumin. This is such a lovely flavour, goes so well in these kinds of things. Tablespoon of onion granules, or you could use onion powder if you've got those as well. Both work very well. These ones don't want to come out of the jar. Oh, there we go. Also a tablespoon of garlic granules. Again, garlic powder can work too. This is basically the same thing, just not quite as fine. Then I'm adding just in a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, because it's hot and spicy. And then just half a teaspoon of chili powder. That should be plenty. Then I'm going to add in 2 teaspoons of mustard powder, because mustard powder goes so well with pork. I'm also going to get it on my hands. Yeah, mustard and pork, natural pairings. I don't know why, but they just are. Then I'm going to put in a couple of tablespoons of brown sugar. So I'm just going to roughly estimate that. I'll say that's about 1, and that's about 2. That's probably a bit more actually, but good thing about rubs is they are very forgiving. So if you go a bit over, a bit under, it doesn't matter too much. You are tailoring this to you. Now, as well as all the dried spices, I like to put a herb of some description in there. Sometimes I'll use dried oregano or dried sage, which go very well. But today I'm just going to use a little bit of chopped fresh rosemary, because I had it to hand and I thought that would be a nice change. But you can mix this up, you can use whatever you like. Lastly, I'm going to do a good grinding of sea salt. Not too much, because pork is kind of naturally salty anyway. So just a little grind of that. And then a good grind of black pepper as well. I'm just going to get in there with my hand, just bring this all together, try and get the lumps out of that brown sugar. You could do that before to be efficient, I was not. But as I do this, you can smell all of those flavours coming together. It's getting that lovely flavour that you would associate with this pulled pork rub, especially like the smokiness from that paprika and also a bit of the spicy heat from the cayenne and the chili powder. It smells wonderful. And the good thing about this is you could make this in bulk and basically put this to one side, put it in a container, maybe poke some holes in the top, use it like a shaker. But look at that, that looks dead on. So lastly, I'm going to add in probably a couple of tablespoons worth of olive oil. This will allow it to turn it into a rub that will stick nicely onto our pork. So add in a couple of tablespoons worth of this. I'm going to eyeball it. 1, 2, that's probably enough. So I am going to get in there with a spoon, because I will get messy enough to start off with. I might need to add another tablespoon's worth. Use your common sense. So I think this needs another tablespoon's worth of olive oil. There we go, that looks better. That's going to stick nicely to our pork. So I can move this to one side and we can move on to our pork, which I have here. So I have a pork shoulder here, which I find works nicely for pulled pork. Usually in the US especially, they use pork butt, which is actually another part of the shoulder. It's the part that's further up from this part of the pork shoulder, and it still has the shoulder blade in it. Sometimes it's called pork shoulder on the bone, and it's usually a bit of a bigger cut, and it works really well for pulled pork, especially if you leave that bone in, because that bone adds a lot of flavour and falls off the bone when it's cooked. But I couldn't get hold of that, so I have about just over 1 kilo's worth of pork shoulder. This will work very nice as well. You can see it's got this string around it, so I don't want this on it, so I'm going to cut this off. Don't need to see me do this, let's skip past that bit. So there we go, that's our string off. And now all I'm going to do is pop this into here, move this to one side, and start rubbing our rub onto our pork. You can see that's sticking really well onto our pork. Get in there, get messy, get it all over. Let's try and bring this back into the middle of the shot, because I'm moving all over the place. Just get this absolutely coated, get it into all the crevices, all the corners. Whatever joint of pork you end up buying and using for this, try and get rid of any excess fat on it. If you buy like a pork shoulder which has the big thick bit of fat on it, try and cut that off, or if you get it from a butcher's, get the butcher to cut it off. You can keep it, you can try and turn it into crackling or something like that. You generally don't want that on there because that won't cook so well in our pot. And that is our pork all nicely covered in that rub. Now you can do this the night before, because It will allow this to marinate in those flavours, really absorb them. Because I'm doing this today, I'm not going to do that. But what I am going to do is I'm just going to cover this up and pop it into the fridge while I carry on with our other steps, so it can take in some of that flavour. But it is really best if you pop it in the fridge the night before, all covered up, so it can absorb in those flavours and it'll become even more flavoursome. So I'm not going to wrap it up too tight. I'm just going to pop this over the top while I get onto the next step. So into the fridge with this, and we can move on to the next step. Right, after our pork is marinated, the next thing we need to do is cook it. And we're going to be slow cooking it, and we're going to be slow cooking it on the hob in this pot. It's a big old pot, you can see here. It's already got some oil in it, which is starting to smoke a little. The reason for that is in this pot, I'm going to be putting a lovely big bed of onions. This is what our pulled pork is going to be sat on. Our pork shoulder is going to sit on top of this. These onions are going to generate some lovely flavour, and it stops the pork from just sitting on the bottom of the pan too much. So while these are sizzling away, I'm not going to actually cook them down because these will eventually cook out in our beef stock, which we are going to add next. So you can see here I've got a litres worth of beef stock. You don't have to use beef stock, you could use chicken stock, or you could even use vegetable stock if you don't have this one, or you could use beer. Beer is also very, very good for cooking pulled pork in. I don't have any in the house because I don't drink anymore, but beer also works fantastically as a liquid to cook pulled pork in. Now I actually lied, this isn't going in next, because next is our pork. I'm going to take this off. This has been probably marinating for a good 15 minutes while I've been chopping the onions. I'm using red onions, but you could use normal white or brown onions as well. You could even use shallots if you felt fancy. So I'm going to take our pork and I'm going to rest that on top of here, and I've also got some of the rub left over here. I'm not going to waste that. I'm going to actually put this in there as well because that is just flavour we're wasting otherwise. Now I'm taking our beef stock and I'm just going to add this around the outside of the pork. I don't want to wash off all that rub off the top. Oh, I'm also getting it all over my hob. So you can see it's enough to come up around the sides of our pulled pork but not submerge it completely. What I'm going to do now is just leave that to come up to a simmer, which shouldn't take too long. So that is coming up to a simmer now, so I am going to pop on the lid and I'm going to bring this down to a low heat. This is about a 2 on mine, but it will vary depending on your stovetop. So now I can go off and I can leave this for a good 6 to 8 hours for it to slow cook away in all those juices. Now that the lid is on, I can go away and leave this for a good 6 to 8 hours. It can benefit from a really long slow cook. You could even go 10 to 12 if you wanted to. It's something you could put on early in the morning and go off and not worry about. Maybe come back every now and again, make sure that the liquid isn't evaporating away. If it is, no problem, just add in some more beef stock or beer or whatever you're using. But otherwise we can now go away and come back later and we can make something really, really nice with this. That's it for now, come back later. Hey yeah, so it's been about 8 hours now since I put on the pork to make our pulled pork, and in that time I've been quite busy. I've also been quite high-pitched, I don't know what happened there. But yeah, in that time I've been quite busy. I've been out with my mum and dad. They came down, we went out and had some lunch and stuff like that. Managed to get some nice rolls with which to have my pulled pork, so these will go nicely. And pretty much our pulled pork is nearly ready. I've checked it, it's already kind of falling apart, which is what we want. Helps us turn it into pulled pork. Otherwise it's just chopped pork and we have to hack it to bits, and we don't want to do that. It's got to fall apart, it's got to fall off, I'd say fall off the bone. It would fall off the bone if there are any bones in it. This is not a boned pork. But we're not quite finished yet, because what we need with our pulled pork, turning into the Swedish chef now, what we need with our pulled pork is some barbecue sauce. So what we're going to do is make some barbecue sauce. Obviously you can go out and buy any old barbecue sauce you want. There's plenty of good ones out there, some not so good ones out there, but there's nothing quite like making your own barbecue sauce, and it's really not that hard. You don't need a lot. We just need some fairly basic ingredients and a lot of the ones that we've already used. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now. It doesn't take very long at all. So let's get started with that, and then we can put it all together and have some wonderful pulled pork rolls. So let's get going. Right, in order to make our barbecue sauce, what we're going to need to start off with as our base is some tomato ketchup. And tomato ketchup is great as a base for barbecue sauce because it's already got a lot of sweetness and some of the spices that we need in there, and this makes a really great base for our sauce. So I'm going to be popping in 150 grams in here. Probably pretty much any tomato ketchup will do. You could use the popular variety of Heinz. I'm using a slightly nicer one, I think, but to be honest, it doesn't matter too much as long as you've got a nice tomato ketchup base. There's 150 grams here, there or thereabouts anyway. Then, like with our pulled pork rub earlier, we're going to need some dark brown sugar. It's probably a couple of tablespoons, so I'm going to use what's left in here. So I'm going to pop this straight into here. There's probably about a couple of tablespoons here, maybe a bit more. Doesn't matter too much, but it gives us that lovely sweetness that we need from our barbecue sauce. Then, to give us that slight sharpness that we are familiar with in barbecue sauce, we're going to add in a tablespoon's worth of vinegar. You can use either cider vinegar or use what I'm using here, that's white wine vinegar. Then we're going to add in 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce, or Worcester sauce, or whatever you want to call it. It's Worcestershire sauce if you're from America and you're not sure how to pronounce it. We're going to add in 2 tablespoons of this, which will hopefully work out because I think that's pretty much all I've got left. I love this stuff and it is extremely versatile. So yeah, 2 tablespoons of that. That's going to give it that lovely dark colour that we have associated with our barbecue sauce. And I'm adding in just a splash of hot sauce, so not too much, just to give it a little bit of heat. You don't have to include this if you don't want to. You could use something like Tabasco instead. I'm using this one from the sauce shop, who do some very good sauces. Then I'm going to add in a tablespoon of smoked paprika. This will give us that lovely smokiness that we want in our barbecue sauce. Then I'm adding in a teaspoon of garlic granules. You could use fresh garlic if you wanted to, but I had these to hand, so I'm going to use these. And I'm adding in a teaspoon of mustard powder. And lastly, just about a half a teaspoon of salt. And that's the basis for our barbecue sauce. So now we need to get this onto the hob and just to bring it all together, cook it through for about 10 minutes. So I'm going to do that now. So I've popped this on a hob over a medium-high heat. I've moved the pulled pork to the back hob just so it can finish cooking. And I'm going to start stirring this through just to bring it all together. You can see that tomato ketchup is already starting to darken into a much more familiar colour for barbecue sauce, and that dark brown sugar is mixing in there as well. And all we're going to do is we're just going to cook it for a little while, bring it up to a gentle simmer and cook it, just to make sure we get rid of any of that raw vinegar flavour more than anything else. So you can see this already looks like a really good barbecue sauce colour, and it already smells really good. Now this should be enough for like a good 3 or 4 pulled pork rolls, but you could increase the quantities of this and actually make a nice big batch of it. You could put it into bottles and you could keep it for a while, keep it in the fridge, and whip it out whenever you want, basically. Use it on anything you like. It's just such a nice, simple recipe, and if you are a big fan of barbecue sauce, honestly, if you make your own, then you probably won't go back to buying it in the shops. So I'm just going to bring this up to the simmer and keep on stirring it, basically. I don't want to let it catch, I don't want it to basically overcook because of the sugar in it. It will end up burning and ruining the bottom of my pan as well. So I'm going to stand here and stir this for probably a good 6-7 minutes, something like that, until I'm satisfied that this is going to be a great tasting barbecue sauce. So our barbecue sauce has probably only had a good like 5 minutes, 6 minutes, just bubbling away over a medium heat on the hob, and you can see it's thickened up really nicely. You can drag the spatula through this and have it leave a clean line through the bottom. This is what we want. This is the thickness that we want our sauce. And you can see the colour has got a lot darker and it just smells really, really good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little bit on the spoon. It's going to be hot, but I'm going to taste it, just make sure it's how I want it to be. This is one of those things where you kind of tailor it to yourself. If you want it a bit smokier, a bit more smoked paprika, a bit sweeter, a bit more sugar, a bit hotter, a bit more hot sauce. You get the idea. But I'm just going to check if this is good for me. Oh yes, that is very good for me. Thank you. And that is great, that is what we want. So I'm going to pop this to one side into a container of some sort, and then we can get going with actually pulling the pork and get ourselves some pork rolls going. Oh, I think I might even have dribbled a bit there because I am so hungry and I'm looking forward to these pork rolls. I am sorry, but at least I didn't dribble in the barbecue sauce. Man, I'm disgusting. Right, it's been about 8 hours that this pulled pork has been cooking, and I have not started pulling this pulled pork. This is literally just how it's come out of the pot, and it's already started falling apart. I had to kind of bring it out in bits because it is just falling apart. It is so tender. You can see, like, just it's literally falling apart. If there was a bone in there, it would slide straight out, mate. I don't know why I started going a bit Australian there, but yeah, it is looking so tender, and it smells amazing. So what I'm going to do is just grab 2 forks and we can just start. You can see, look, it just absolutely falls apart. It is so tender. This is all you need to do. You just need to pull the meat apart. It's the most tender meat. And there's going to be so much here. You know, there's more than enough for a good, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 people, I don't know. One, if you're extremely hungry. I am very hungry right now, but there's no way I'm going to be able to eat all of this. So probably what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to wrap a lot of it up, pop it into the fridge, perhaps have it over a couple of days. Maybe I'll take some to work, see if anyone wants some there. Perhaps they can make some pulled pork sandwiches of their own. You can see that's literally all I've done. Just 2 forks, that is all you need to do. You don't need a knife, you don't need anything sharp at all. That is how it should be. That is so simple. Bearing in mind, all we did this morning is got the meat, rubbed a load of spices on it, then put it into a pan and just let it cook away for 8 hours. So this is something you don't have to do much preparation for, you don't have to worry about it, and it is so good. You get such amazing results from it, and you'd be hard pressed to go wrong with it because it's so forgiving. You know, I could have given this another couple of hours and you'd still get that amazing result. There's also loads of the liquid left, so probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop that in and freeze it down and maybe use it again another day for perhaps another pulled pork or something like that. Who knows? I don't want to let it go to waste. What I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be taking this, putting it into a couple of rolls along with some of that barbecue sauce and enjoying it like that. So, going to get me a roll. I'm going to pop some of the barbecue sauce on the base of the roll. I'm going to take some of this delicious pulled pork and arrange that on there and pop some of this over the top. Place the crown on top of the royalty. That's already looking really good. So I'm going to tidy up this area and go and give this a try. I can't wait. Oh baby, look at that. Yes, I have made myself a second pulled pork roll. Don't judge me. I decided that instead of having a load of sides with this, like chips or something, I just wanted 2 pulled pork rolls, and who can blame me, to be honest? Look, that looks fantastic. What you could also do with this is you could also make some coleslaw, buy some coleslaw. It goes very well with pulled pork. But to be honest, I would be happy if someone just put that in front of me. So simple, takes a little while, but that's all it is. Cooking time, that's all it is. But as you probably saw, the effort was minimal. All we did was put a rub onto the pulled pork, then popped it into the pot and left it and walked away. I literally went out for a good 3 hours, 4 hours today and came back, and you know, this was already halfway done, and I'm just so happy with this. It smells amazing and I can't wait any longer. I've got to give this a try. So, oh, look at that. Oh man. I'm sorry if I've got it in my beard. I don't care right now. That is so good. That meat is so tender. You can't go wrong with that. You honestly can't. And the barbecue sauce is sweet but tangy, and it's got a lovely smokiness to it. I'm so happy with this. It's just so easy. It really is. So if you ever wonder, oh, I've got friends coming around, but I've got loads to do. What can I do? What can I make? Make this. Make pulled pork. You can literally marinate it the night before, pop it in the fridge, get some extra flavour into it, and then pop it on in the morning, and off you go. You're done. You're halfway there. All you can do is make the barbecue sauce. I don't know what happened there. You can make the barbecue sauce if you want to, or you can buy some barbecue sauce if you want to save yourself some time. But as you saw, the barbecue sauce is easy as well. So it is one of the easiest things you can do, but it tastes so good. I've probably got it in my beard. I don't care. I'm going to go off and enjoy this. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found it useful. If you did, then give it a thumbs up. And if you're enjoying what I'm doing, if you're enjoying the channel, why not subscribe? And apart from that, I'm going to see you next time on Big Friendly Grub, and I'm going to go stick my face in these. Laters.